Last week, I shared a flip through of the brand new Alex Syberia Designs May release, and I shared that their shop is now open for business after a small hiatus because they moved. I mentioned in that video that I wanted to share a bunch of cards as inspiration and how to use some of those supplies to make your own designs. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video I'll do exactly that. I'll share the new Alex Syberia Designs release, and I'll make a bunch of cards as inspiration and share how to use the supplies to make your own cards. I do have a lot to feature today, so we're going to jump right into the card making, and I'll let you know what new products I used along the way. In last week's flip through video, I shared how I hot foiled a bunch of the hot foil plates, including this one that's called Beautiful Day Hot Foil Plate. There's also a stencil set, Beautiful Day, as well, and you can use it to color in either the hot foil or the stamped image, which is really nice to have both those options depending on the look that you're going for. I love the look of hot foil as that outline because the foil resists ink, which is really nice. So sometimes with black ink, that that you're using with the stencil will cover up that black ink a little bit, and sometimes it's nice to keep the stamp in a stamp positioner so you can re-stamp it and have it be nice and crisp and black. But with foil, the resist effect is really nice. I love using Distress Oxide inks when I am using stencils over hot foil. They're super creamy, they blend really beautifully, and I love using detailed blending brushes like these from Waffle Flower. I'm also using the Waffle Flower grip mat to hold it all in place. There's also a Beautiful Day die set, so I can cut out that border that I created. This background is the charming floral cover die, and it just pierces the most beautiful design. I used my image horizontally across the card, popped it up, and then cut off the excess hanging over the side. I grabbed the Just Because hot foil and die to create that thank you sentiment, and the Quirky hearts die set to create those two interlocking hearts. I had so much fun creating this card. I love foil and the look of these dies and stencils. For this next card, I'm starting with the Elegant Peony die set. Now, this die set is a layering die set, meaning that there are a number of different dies that come together to create the peony flower. I like to add a little bit of ink to my die cuts just for a fun effect to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm using a white pigment ink pad and a Picket Fence Studios ink pouncer, paper pouncer. Now I'll take all of those layers. It's very easy to line up, and there are instructions on the back of the die set, and I'll pop up each individual layer so that there's tons of dimension on this flower. I love the way those petals look and all the dimension that you can easily create. I just cut each die out of a different shade of pink, and I think that is a fun look for that peony. So this is the Chic Chevron stencil, and you can see that you need to really go in the direction of the open lines of the stencil because the center is not adhered down to your cardstock because I'm using just a grip mat in the back. I really wanted a very light effect, so I didn't blend very harshly and I didn't really fill in the whole stencil. Now, the peony also has a stem and two leaf sets that you can add underneath the flower. I decided to cut those out of gold mirror cardstock because I just love the way that leaves looking gold. I'm also using the Friend hot foil plate and die. So I foiled that Friend and then I cut it out with the die set. I also have It's Your Day from the Just Because hot foil plate and dies as well, which is one of my favorites because it cuts out several sentiments in one go. For this next card, I'm starting with the Bouquet of Blessings stamp set. I've stamped one of the border stamps in black ink on white cardstock. And this time I'm using the stencils to color in that image of the stamped background. So now I'm trying to be very light-handed with my ink so that I can have several different colors on these petals to make them look more realistic. And I absolutely love this design. This design is more of a realistic flower as compared to the first Beautiful Day design, which was more of that modern whimsical flower. I love both. They're really so much fun to work with, and they're really easy to color in with the stencils. I know lots of people love coloring with markers. You could absolutely do that with your outline stamps, but I love having the stencils. I think it makes it such a breeze. I cut that panel down to 4 by 5 1/4 to mat it on some yellow cardstock, and I'm using a stamp sentiment from the stamp set, from that Bouquet of Blessings stamp set. It says, "I wish you endless smiles and joy in your daily life," which I thought was very pretty and just different. There are also dies in the die set to cut out both of the images and the sentiments as well. So a really good die set to have. Also, I'm adding these quirky hearts to pretty much everything in this video. I absolutely love them. I love how they have both outlines and the center of those flowers that you can create. So this is another stamp from that same Bouquet of Blessings stamp set. It's more of a corner than a border, and I thought I would make a totally different card with this one. You could probably use both on one card if you wanted to, but I thought let's do another color combination with the stencils to create a totally different card. So I'm using sort of the same technique of pouncing the ink on rather than actually blending it over that black background so that I can keep some of that black because I did not keep my stamp in my stamp positioner. I'll add some white gel pen details, and then this time I'm cutting it out rather than keeping it on the background. They also have a beautiful script thank you sentiment, which I did stamp and then cut out. I'll pop up that corner, and then I cut out a piece of white fun foam using that thank you die that cuts out the stamped sentiment. This way I can perfectly pop up the sentiment. It's a very thin, fine sentiment, so trying to put little bits of foam behind it would have been really hard. This way I can get dimension on that sentiment quickly and easily. For this card, I used the Heartfelt Blooms hot foil plate to foil in rainbow foil that big flower. And then I used the Tiny Hearts hot foil plate to make the rainbow foil background. I did pop up that background and cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4, and then used the Just Because hot foil plate and dies to create the sentiment. I love rainbow foil, it's my favorite. The next die set is a really fun one. This one's called Mysterious Petals die set. So you can cut out what I cut out in Gold Mirror, which is kind of the stem, and then the background for all the flowers. Then each die has about 3 different layers for each of those flowers. I hope that makes sense. It's very easy to figure out, and again, they have instructions on the back, but basically on those individual flower dies, if you cut them out of different colors of cardstock, you can layer them on top of each other to create some really pretty images. And again, this is a more whimsical, modern looking design, which I absolutely love. And I love the combination of bright color of cardstock and Gold Mirror. If you haven't tried that, I definitely recommend it. I did pop up the flowers. I didn't put any foam behind the stems, just behind the flowers, and carefully laid it down on some white cardstock. And the You Are the Best is from that Just Because hot foil and die set. I thought I would fill in some of the white space on this card using the Leafy Duo die set. Again, cut that out of Gold Mirror cardstock, and I'm placing it, just tucking it behind some of the areas that were open on that design. This next die is called the Chevron Chic cover die. So in a previous card, we used the Chevron Chic stencil. Now we're using the Chevron Chic cover die. I cut mine out of white cardstock and layered it over white cardstock to create a really subtle but textured background. Now here are those quirky hearts in all their glory because I cut them out of a rainbow of cardstock. So here you can see what I mean. You get in each of the dies, it's an outline, but Also, it cuts out that centerpiece. So you get the outline and you get the center heart, which is fun to fill with a bunch of different colors. So like I said, I cut mine out of a rainbow of cardstock, and then I'll just add a sentiment that says just for you, also in rainbow foil from the Just Because foil and die set. For this card, I'll use the Tiny Hearts cover die. So before we use the Tiny Hearts foil plate, this time we're using the Tiny Hearts cover die, and you can see it cuts out those tiny little hearts. That's why I adhered it over gold mirror cardstock, so you can see those tiny little gold hearts peeking out from the back. I also cut my Quirky hearts out of gold mirror cardstock, and this time I'm just using the outlines. This is the Love die. It is a very thin script. It's absolutely beautiful, and you can use something like the My Sweet Petunia Precision Glue Press to add a little bit of liquid glue behind it and adhere it right down. Just a clean and simple card, but lots of wow factors. I don't know about you, but I am super excited that Alex Syberia Designs is open again. I love this new release, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts were. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. There's like a disaster down there, so we don't want to step backwards. Keppel, and in today's video, using the same words over and over and over again.